9, it's very clear to us. He said, for my name's sake will I defer mine anger, and for my praise. Somebody say, my praise. God is saying, I'm doing this for my praise. In other words, I'm trying to get you to the place where you start praising me again. Somebody say praise. Did you know your praise is powerful? I can't go to the end of my message yet because we're going to finish it off with praise. But he said he would defer his anger. Somebody say defer. The word defer, or in the original text, means patient. Means patient. We're talking about chosen in the fire, because verse 10 says he would not refine us with silver, but he would refine us in the furnace, right? He would choose us in the furnace. In other words, isn't it amazing how when we really want God to move and we get impatient that God gets patient? Does that just make anybody mad almost at God? It almost gets underneath my skin, because there's just sometimes in my life when I want to say, God, what's up with things? What's going on? Talk to me. Help me out here. And it's almost like he's just sitting up just looking at me, just getting all patient. And I'm just looking at my watch saying, time is ticking away and life is ticking away. I need some answers. What's going on? And here, God, he's just getting patient in all the situations. It's for his praise. Can I show you why? Can I really show you why? It amazes me because we have to understand why. Pain is sent in your life to cause you to ask the question, why? Why is my hand feeling pain? Because I'm too close to the fire. Why am I going through this? It's because if I keep continuing in the same path that I'm going, I will inevitably find myself in a permanent state of disarray. And God said, I don't want that. I want to get praise out of your life. So I will get patient in the furnace of your life until the furnace that I put you in will accomplish what I sent it to do. And that's to get you to start beginning to ask why. Why am I experiencing this? Why do I keep having a series of bad relationships? Could it be because you've never learned how to treat people in the first place? I just threw that in for free. Just slid it right under in there. If you keep going through the same thing and you can't find any friends, could it be the fact that you don't know how to show yourself friendly? And the pain of loneliness, the furnace of affliction, is designed to get you to the place where you begin to ask the question, why? What's going on? What's up? What's happening? I need to find out some answers. And it's through the question why, when we begin to question why, we begin to wonder why, that God can begin to move. Do you remember the story of a man who was in the wilderness, and it said that he was just walking along and he saw a burning bush, and what happened? He stopped and the bush began to talk to him. Did you know in Middle Eastern countries, I even found this in Africa, that because it's so dry and it's so hot, it's a normal thing to see burning bushes. But what made God talk to this burning bush? It was the fact that here's a man who had seen something and he was used to seeing it, but he began to question why. And when he began to question why, God started talking to him. God, and generally I found this, God doesn't stop talking, we just stop listening. But there's nothing like pain and trouble and chaos and turmoil that will make us turn our ear and cut the radio off and the CDs and stop going to the movies and pull the blinds down and move the clock off the wall and say, God, I'm not moving until you speak to me, because I need to know your plan for my life. Am I talking to anybody today at all? We're talking about pain. We have to understand. To get to this place of question, it's different for everybody. Because we all experience it. We all have different tolerances to pain. That's why you can have two people go through the exact same thing and both of them come to different conclusions and experience different things when going through. For some people, it takes absolutely hitting rock bottom, being drugged through the mud, stomped on, pressed on, everything else. It takes them going all the way to the bottom to where the only place they have to look is up. And for others, it just takes the threat of going to the bottom. And you know I'm talking to you. Because you've got people, and some of them that you grew up, went to high school with here, they're 45 years old, and they're still partying and running around. They haven't even learned their lesson. But for you, at some point, evidently you learned the lesson because you're here. It takes a different level for everybody because we're all on different levels. But thank God he doesn't give up on anybody. The preacher just said, Pless, I heard his testimony. He said he was singing in a rock band, was going in the bathroom to shoot up with some kind of drug or something, and God spoke to him, and it took him in that place. He said he had all kinds of opportunities in his life to give his heart to God, but it took him at the lowest state in his life where he's about to chemically hook himself up to something just to try to make himself go on stage and perform to somebody. And he said he just got saved in the bathroom and went out and started playing his piano, singing, everybody in this place is going to hell. I'm not suggesting anybody do that, but it amazes me how, even like the prodigal son, if we just add some Bible to make it real. We've got the older brother who was in the house and didn't even get it, and he was in the house. And we got the younger brother, and before he even questions, he had to run around and spend all of his inheritance and get rock bottom, eating with the pigs and slopping with the hogs and everything else to get himself to the place where he began to question, why am I going through what I'm going through? Why am I in such a painful experience? It's different for every single person. I don't know what it takes for you, but God does. And I promise he will wait patiently on you. He will defer his anger. In other words, he will defer his wrath. He will patiently fold his arms and not allow what should come to you because he's waiting for you to wake up, come to your senses, and say, why am I experiencing what I'm experiencing? Are we helping anybody today? And I found it, and this is even on a side note, but as Christians, it's very easy because this is not taught a whole lot. Most preachers teach that when you come to Jesus, everything gets good. And that you can determine if God is in it by if it's good. Has anybody ever heard that? And that preaches a great message and it sounds really nice. But I found that even sometimes when I do obey God, I still end up in the furnace. Can I prove it to you? Daniel chapter 3. Let's look at it together. Verses 20. Daniel chapter 3 tells us, and he commanded the most mighty men that were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and cast them into the burning fiery furnace. 21 tells us, Then these men were bound in their coats, their hosen, and their hats, and their other garments, and were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Hold up right here. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. How did they get there? They obeyed God. We'll mess up every bit of the theology about prosperity and the goodness and graciousness. Here's a group of brothers that ended up in the furnace obeying God, which messes up the whole mindset that if it feels good, it's God. Because not everything you experience is the devil in a negative sense. Some of it is God. He said that he would refine, that he would choose us in the furnace, in the fire, in the place of affliction. In other words, God is trying to do something in our life. He said that he can't do it with silver. He said he would refine us, but not with silver. He's talking about blessing. In other words, there are some things that God can't pull out of you in blessing. It takes the fire. And we talked about that previously. Because in a state of blessing, you don't need God. Almost makes me mad. I grit my teeth and I want to throw something at people. When 2 weeks later, they were shouting all over the church and believing God. But then they got their breakthrough. They got their healing. They got the miracle. God answered their prayer request. And they come to church and sit like a wooden Indian. I don't get mad at them. I get mad at them. I want to take my Bible and just hit them upside the head. I'm sorry if that's too blunt for you. I'm being honest in the place. Because it amazes me how when people get in the state of the silver, that they no longer need God because they've got it all together. So God, he gets patient. He said, it's all right. Let them live in the silver. Eventually, when they go as far as they can go and they end up in the furnace, they'll come back to me. I'm going to get patient because I'm deferring my anger. Here's three men. And it said they were bound, right? It said that the mightiest men of the land bound them and threw them in the furnace. Can I show you the purpose of the furnace to begin with? Verse 25 tells us, Daniel chapter 3 and 25. Then these men were bound in their coats, their hosen, and he answered and said, Lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt, and the form of the fourth is like the Son of God. Let's just flip the thing and reverse it tonight. What did the scripture say? They were bound and thrown in the furnace. And when they were bound, before they were thrown in the furnace, they couldn't move and they were restricted. They got in the furnace and it said they got loosed. Because in the furnace of affliction, everything that doesn't have God's stamp of approval on it is incinerated and burned up. So what is the furnace designed to do in your life? Remove everything that's not of God. And this is the thing that amazes me. It said, no harm come to them. Why do we get so upset about when we're in the fiery furnace? God, I feel like I'm not going to make it. I don't enjoy this feeling. I just hate the pressure. I can't stand somebody being on my neck. I just hate feeling like that. It's all feelings. None of it's factual. It's feelings. No harm can come to you for the simple fact that God said, I would be with you always, and greater is He that's in me than he that's in the world. So it means that no weapon formed against me can